for our speakers at any time. For general comments, feel free to also use the chat box as well. A feedback form will be shared for your comments and assessments after the webinar. All right, to get us started, um, I would want us to uh, delve into the quick poll. Okay. Yeah, so as you can see on the screen, this will be the agenda for today. And yeah, the housekeeping rules, as I mentioned, and we'll be delving into the quick poll. Valentine. Okay. And so to get us kick-started, just a quick poll for us to respond to before we invite our first speaker. The first question, I believe the poll would have popped up on your screen. And so we have the first question being, how ready are you for the future of job? And so on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 not ready, 5 very ready, just select your option. Question 2, do you have a learning or upskilling goal for 2025? And so you just select your answer as well. And then question 3, what emerging technology do you think will have the biggest impact in your industry? And so you select any of the options there. You have artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, blockchain, and decentralized technologies. You also have green technologies. Question 4, how do you currently stay updated on industry trends? We have a number of options there as well. Social media, online courses, news articles, networking. And so you just select any of them. And then the last, okay, question 5, which of these skills are you most interested in developing? And so you make your selection there as well. There's AI and machine learning, data analytics, programming and web development, AI and remote sensing, project management, content creation, as well as digital marketing. Then question 6, last but one, what's your biggest barriers to scaling right now? And so you can select lack of time, cost of courses, motivation, and then not sure what to learn. And then the last question, what do you hope to take away from today's session? What do you hope to take away from today's session? And so this is just a quick poll, quick answers for us to get started. I'm just giving us just a few more seconds to complete. This is not an exam paper, and so please, there are no wrong answers at all. Okay, so I believe by now we've all responded to the poll. Valentine, are we able to see the results? All right, thank you very much. And so, wow, quite interesting answers or responses coming in. So on the first question, how ready are you for the future of jobs? I think we have a majority of people on a scale are ready, maybe very ready, close to very ready. We have 43%. Uh, quite interesting. So we had no responses for 1 and 2. That's interesting. For question 2, do you have a learning or upskilling goal for 2025? We have quite a number of us, 71%, indicating that yes, already working on it. That's good to know. And I think the second highest, 29%, indicating that yes, yes, to start working on it. Okay, so at least we have a majority of us already working on it, and that's a good sign. Question 3, which is what emerging technology do you think will have the biggest impact in your industry? Interesting response. A majority of us selecting artificial intelligence and machine learning. And then the next highest, that's the green technologies at 29%. Wow, interesting. No one selected cloud computing, blockchain. Question 4, how do you currently stay updated on industry trends? Wow. We had okay, this was a multiple choice selection, but we had quite a number of people selecting social media and networking. Social media and networking. Wow, so we get updated on industry trends through social media and networking. That's quite interesting. So just a few of us get that updated on online courses through online courses and news articles. For question five, which of these skills are you most interested in developing? We had a significant number of people selecting AI machine learning, data analytics, and management. Project management. Just a few of us selected programming and web development, content creation, and digital marketing. Very interested. Very interested. Question six, what's the biggest barrier to upscaling right now? The majority of us, I think, are struggling with a lack of time and then motivation consistency. Lack of time and motivation consistency. But just closely following is cost of courses and then not sure what to learn. Well, I'm hoping that by the end of the webinar, um, that would be settled in our mind. That would be settled in our mind. What do you hope to take away from today? So I think we only have 29 people answering. But that's a good response there. And thank you very much for responding to our poll. Thank you very much. And so I believe we can move on to the next segment of our webinar. And that is getting right into our first speaker, right? It's my honor to introduce our first speaker who will be setting the stage by looking at the global trends that make upskilling so critical. Our first speaker is visionary in the world of emerging technologies. As the CEO of STEMID and Vice President of the IoT Network Hub, Mr. Prince Boateng Asare is at the forefront of driving STEM education and the adoption of IoT, that's Internet of Things, AI, and robotics. With a decade of experience, including his work as a UX consultant at Ghana India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT, he brings a unique perspective on the skills needed to innovate and lead. He believes that the sorry, he believes that the illiterate of the 21st century are those who cannot learn and relearn. Please join me in welcome Mr. Prince Boateng Asare as he takes stage. Prince, welcome. We are eager to hear your perspective. The floor is yours.
Hello, good morning. Am I audible? Can you hear
Yes,
me loud and clear?
yes, please. You're very audible.
Right. Thank you very much, Zoe, for the introduction. If I have the permission to share my screen, then I'll go straight into it, and then we will see what are the industry trend that we need to also be upscaling. And I saw the pools. I think we are also still in line. So we would like to see what are the things we need to do to ensure that we stay relevant in the future and also the future of work. If I have the permission to share my screen, I'll go straight into my presentation, and then I'll be glad to see some of the validations that we will see from the research that we also have and what we are doing in Ghana and Africa and what we are doing here also as STEMIT and IoT. So if I have the permission, I
Please
should
go
be
ahead.
able to share my screen now. Okay, a second. I think so. I can share my screen now. Okay. Second. Okay, good to go. I hope my screen is clear and you can now see.
Yes, please. Your screen
All
is
right.
visible.
Thank you for the opportunity once again. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Prince Boateng Asari. As Zoe introduced me, I'm a consultant with software engineering background and over a decade of experience in the field of AI robotics and also consultancy work. I have been able to put up this presentation to give us a fair idea on what we need to do as people or organizations and how we also prepare for the workforce and upscaling. So I have run a couple of startups. You could see there are Farm, there's Pocket, there's this. And I also worked and also still consult for Kofi Annan ICT Center, which is an agency under the Ministry of Communication that is focused on building systems and also consultancy work for the government agencies across the country. I'm also the vice president of IT Network Hub, which is a non-for-profit organization we started in 2016 that is focused on emerging technology, the 4IR, which is the fourth industrial revolution, and how we can prepare ourselves for the future and also the future of work. And just recently, STEMAID also is an educational technology company that is focused on scaling the existing workforce and also empowering the young generation with the 21st century skills they need to be survive and also to be relevant in the future and in the future of work. I say that I design, I build, and also analyze systems for humans. So when I had the opportunity to do this presentation, the session focused on empowering upscaling in the area of how we can prepare ourselves for the future with the existing workforce and how we can also focus on the young ones coming to replace the existing workforce in the area of AI, robotics, and also the likes. So we have a quick presentation. This is a perspective that we've seen in Africa over the 10 years of having consultancy work and also building software projects and also running training services across the region and also on the African continent. So I'm sure this statistics is not new to all of us. We always say that Africa is going to host the youngest population. According to the World Bank, it says that the median age on the average, we would have the age of 19.7 years for every young child in Africa. It means that by 2050, Africa is going to have the largest population, which is over 1.2 billion people will be African. Or if you pick 5 people, one of them in the world is an African. This means that it is a huge workforce that is going to generate over $29 trillion by 2050. And 60% of the population is going to be Africans. So it means that this is a huge opportunity for us to prepare ourselves to be relevant in the future and in the future of work. Think of eras of AI, robotics, and on the likes. So it's as much as it's an opportunity, it also poses a challenge in disguise. And how do we address these things? 60% of Africans are living less than $2, which is between the poverty rate, which is 60%, and 60%, 6% of education have not students or people in the education have not successfully completed all the way to the tertiary level. So majority of us are in the upper secondary schools that we've been able to complete. And when it comes to infrastructure, you could see that we have a huge arable land, but 39% of these infrastructures we have, less than that have access to electricity. So as we prepare ourselves to drive the working force and going to have the largest population, these are key areas that we need to also see that we can address so that we can be able to be relevant in the future and in the future of work. And also, of course, youth employment is huge in Africa, and 12.4% of the youth are unemployed, highlighting the need for skills development, especially in the era of AI, robotics, and the likes. So what is the opportunity for us? And we believe that from a STEM perspective and also over the years of a decade in the field, we believe that the key areas we need to see in upskilling ourselves for the workforce is these new innovations, which we call the fourth industrial revolution, which is AI, IoT, robotics, STEM education, tech revolution, and policies. So as much as we are looking at the innovations, we need to also look at the technology policies that will drive this innovation, that will drive this change that we are all preparing ourselves, that we are all earning for. So in the era of AI, you could all testify that the rise of AI has been very predominant in the few years that we just got into it, 2022 all the way to 2025, just 3 years. The huge innovation happening in AI is crazy. We have chatbots all over the place. We have AI systems. You can talk to it, gives you all information. And on top of that, there is IoT. And I see the pull-ups talk about cloud computing, but majority of us also didn't select that option because IoT is also a combination of the ability to have your information on the cloud that can allow you to communicate with it anywhere in the world. So you can be able to be in your home, then you can be able to turn off your home appliances anywhere you have in the world, where you can have IoT systems in your home. You can view your consumption rate. You can be able to operate and also communicate. And then we have robotics. Robotics and also AI is taking over, where organizations are looking forward to replace us or humans with what we call the 1 mile taxes. So the 1 mile taxes are basically the things that we do over and over again, the same activity, the same task that we do over and over again, which can be done by robots because the robot will not go and sleep. The robot will not go and use the washroom. The robot will not complain of sitting and their back is paining them or walking and they are getting tired. So all these 1 mile task processes robots are being able to deploy and be replaced, and they can do that one thing over and over again without complaining, without feeling tired. So, meaning that it's going to automate the processes in the office, in the industry, in the work environment, that is going to boost productivity because the robot, as soon as you set it up 24/7, is working all throughout. Now, what do we need? We need education. If you go back to my background and my profile, we work in startups in the fintech environment, which is financial literacy. We've done something in agriculture, and we are now in education. The reason why we are in education is that if your fundamentals are not strong, you know what it means. So every single solution that we are providing in this environment, it requires that we have the core fundamentals course. If you don't have great fundamentals, any solution that you deploy, the workforce or the people will not be able to use it because the core fundamental skills are not there. And that is the main reason why we get towards into STEM education, preparing the young generation in the skills so that they can be relevant and prepare themselves for the skills. So that if you are in the environment and we deploy solution or technologies, because we have the fundamental skills, we can quickly adapt to the technology and to be able to use it. And all this catalyst for change coming up requires that we have policies that will drive the change, or that will also be a catalyst to be able to improve on this kind of changes that we are looking for. So these are 4 key areas that we are looking at to be able to drive the change that we are looking for. And a typical case study is in the Rwanda Education Vision 2020, where they started coding in basic schools where every child is compulsory learning how to code and having the core fundamentals right to be able to set the pace for them as they grow into the workforce. And then finally, what are these 4 fundamental skills when we say STEM education? Science is basically the application of research capabilities to be able to apply them, right? And then you look at technology, developing the core digital skills that we need to stay relevant in the future and the future of work. And then engineering, being able to apply the scientific research and creating infrastructure solutions that can be very groundbreaking and also be relevant for the workforce that we are trying to build in the field of wherever we find ourselves. And then mathematical, having a strong strengthened skills in analytical thinking that enables us to be able to stay relevant and apply all these 4 key areas to have a strong foundation in STEM for Africa's future or for the young ones that are going to be dominating in the future of work. And then what is the perspective of the global competitiveness? And during the poll, we saw most of us were talking about AI, data scientists, software development, engineering, biotechnology is very new, but it's still having some edge that will revolutionize the space in which we find ourselves. So in this pool, you could see that data science is very huge, and data science cuts across data analysis, AI, and the likes. And then you look at software development. As much as AI and robotics is coming up, we will need software development that can serve as the mediator between the hardware and also users, so that it can be an interface. You develop the interface that you can use to communicate with these hardwares that we are using. And then engineering, of course, you cannot do anything without having the engineering one in there. So engineering is a key thing to enable us to be able to build everything that we want to build. And it is very important that Africa prepare ourselves to be very competitive in the global workforce that we are want to scale ourselves into there. And if you look at beneath, you can see that you're saying that by 2030, which is just 5 years from now, Africa is going to face a shortage of skills workers, which is 5 million skills workers are going to be what? We're going to have a shortage. And this is a gap that is an opportunity for group. As much as it's a gap, it's also an opportunity for us to grow in those areas. Then how do we overcome the STEM challenges? You could see that there's a huge infrastructure gap. And according to the World Bank, it states that less than 25% of African students are enrolled in STEM-related courses in the tertiary level or in the higher level. And even with the 25%, less than 5% of them are female. It means that we need to do more advocacy in the area. And what are some of the challenges? The reasons for these numbers is that we don't have a lot of awareness in the field of STEM education. There's this stereotype that STEM or engineering or maths or coding is hard. So we don't go into those areas. And then infrastructure gap is very also critical. According to this report, it says that 28% of Africans' households have internet access. If you don't have internet, you can't even talk to an AI system. You can't even go to social media. Most of you are saying you stay active in the trend through social media. If you don't have internet, how do you get access to be able to stay relevant and stay up to date in this area? And also resource limitation. We don't have enough infrastructure in our schools to be able to have the students being able to have hands-on effective learning when it comes to STEM education in Africa. And one of the key things also is that teacher shortage. According to this research also, there's a huge critical shortage with teachers who are very specialized in STEM education. So as much as we have this gap, the teachers are not qualified enough to be able to empower our students in the area of STEM and STEM education. And then finally, there's a big digital divide between the urban and rural areas of connectivity and having access to use digital tools to enhance and also to empower them to stay relevant in the future and also stay up to date. Now, this is where STEMIT comes in. Over the course of 10 years within the space, we've traveled across all the regions running training programs with teachers, with students, and you could see that the system and then all these key things that are missing is clear and predominant everywhere you travel in the country. That is why we came up with STEMate, and we are going to look at the perspective of how we are addressing these challenges. As we don't see challenges anymore, we see them as opportunity to be able to leapfrog or to be still relevant in the era. And we are empowering the young ones with the 21st century skills. So according to the World Economic Forum, it also states that there are four critical skills that is needed in every child. And they talk about creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. So these are the four C's that are the 21st century skills that is needed for us to be able to imagine, design, and also create the Africa we want to see. And that is also requires that the upscaling, it will also require in the existing workforce so that they can have the necessary skills they need to also stay relevant in the organization they happen to find themselves. And we do four key things, which is the STEM training, empowering every single child with a low-cost STEM learning toolkit and robotics kit. And we also have a curriculum that is designed with these four critical skills in mind. So at any point, whatever every child is going through would have these four skills at the end of the learning outcomes that we do. And also provide STEM learning kits and also provide STEM competitions and STEM lab. And in terms of addressing the infrastructure gap, we work with organizations that are powerful and also relevant to skill the workforce in terms of infrastructure and labs, that we set up a lab to enable the young ones to be able to stay relevant by learning. As TEMAID, we are focused on engaging and ensuring that we make education or learning as much as fun, interactive, and young ones can learn without even thinking about it. The only thing they do is they learn by doing. So every session we do is hands-on and it's practical, and it's also very relevant in their work or daily activities. And we have a simple toolkit, which is called the STEM Aid Kit. Is a learning toolkit that prepares the student to succeed in today's world. It has basic components like bulbs, wires, basic hands-on toolkits that they can be able to put together and build projects. For instance, they are looking at the traffic lights every time. There's a street light. When it's in the morning, the light goes off. When it's in the evening, the street light automatically comes on. What is the mechanism behind? So as the young ones are building this project, they are equipping themselves with these skills so that they can be able to do fun activities and still learn. Now, how are we doing it? We're also empowering teachers, and over 77,500 students have been empowered through our STEM education. We'd also work with teacher training organizations that are empowering the teachers at the national, the education level or the teacher training college levels, so that they prepare themselves, so that when they are ready and they graduate from the training schools, they go straight to the classroom and they are well equipped with what is happening in the fourth industrial revolution, and also skills themselves to be able to stay relevant in the future and in the future of work, and also empower our students in the classroom. And then we also do local manufacturing, as we also emphasize on creating jobs. As much as we are equipping the skill sets, if you train them, where would you put them to? We ensure that they have the skill set to stay relevant and ensure that everything they are building is culturally relevant to have a sustainable country or Ghana and also Africa as a whole. And then these are some of the sessions that we have had with children. This is a 3D printer over there where students will do a simple robotic system. They draw in line and build their project, and then they will control the robots by following the lines. There's a simple map over there. The map is basically the language that the robot understands. So as the robot, you design the robot, your language will determine how the robot will navigate the field. And then we also have a virtual reality device where they can wear and immerse themselves in the field of virtual reality, and also prepare and be able to have a lab in the environment that they can do without necessarily having a physical lab wherever they find themselves. And then these are some of the training sessions that we have where students will be engaged and build projects, and then very relevant in the field they have. So the lady over here showing the traffic light is a student who lives at Medina and comes to our office at Paloma around the Ring Road Central. And she always complains that the traffic is too much for her. So she designed a whole traffic light management system that the traffic lights can talk to each other. So wherever they see that there's a heavy load of vehicles on one road, it means that it allows the free flow of traffic. So the light will switch to green so that more cars can come from that area to ease the traffic system. And she built and presented it. And there's also a smart street light of one of the students who says that all the places are dark. So why is it so? Can we have a smart street light system that can come on and off during the time of the day? And these are some of the things that students will do as they learn and build projects. And we also have teacher training programs where the teachers will have a feel of how they can be able to build systems. So this is a training program we did for over 30 teachers who are in all the 16 regions of the country under the Ministry of Communication, GIFEC. They have over 100 center labs across the country. So we go and train the teachers to be able to have their special STEM knowledge through the use of our hands-on STEM tools. And they build this project by building, understanding the situation they find themselves, and they build and present. Once they are done, they go back. Every teacher have over 60 students that they train in their various centers. So when they go and impart the knowledge with these students. And at every end of the year, all the students come together to do a competition and see what the students have learned over the years and what the teachers have also been able to teach them. And then now, what do we need to do to catalyze Africa's future through technology? There are three key areas. AI-powered learning system. If you look at scaling education, you cannot be anywhere at the same time. But when you deploy an AI solution, it can understand the child's learning pattern, and then it can be able to design training, especially for the child, anywhere they find themselves. And the interesting thing about Africa market is that we have a huge mobile penetration rate. Over 44% of Africans have a mobile penetration rate in remote areas. It means that we can leverage on this mobile penetration rate and also scale the solutions we want to scale in Africa and in everywhere that we want to scale, and also in these remote areas. And there are a whole lot of digital platforms that we can also leverage on that and also deploy our solutions. And the key considerations we need to consider is electricity, which we saw that less than them have access to connect electricity, and also internet connectivity, and also resource constraint. And finally, language. There's different diverse language in Africa. If you come down to Ghana, there are different language barriers. So how do we leverage on AI? How do you leverage mobile technology? And how do you leverage on these digital platforms to be able to meet the users or the needs of the users where they are? And also within the workforce environment, how do we also upskill ourselves so that we can deploy our solutions in these areas? A call to action for all of us. We need to invest in STEM education that would empower every child to be able to have this education that we all seek for. And also the key thing, also the existing workforce. I grew up to hear this concept that there is this concept of people born before the computer, which they call the BBC. Do we want to have an era where you say people are born before AI and that they don't have to score and they can't use AI technologies in their workforce? No way. We need to be able to invest in our existing workforce, in the work environment, so that they can be relevant and also apply these AI tools to be productive, to be efficient, and also to enable them to do the work they want to do. And also, we need to support local innovation. You've seen a lot of brilliant ideas coming up. So we need to also have a call to action to have policies that support local innovation. We need to also partner with we need to partner together to develop solutions for local challenges, because every single day you wake up in the morning, you prepare, you go to your office, you see so many challenges all over. How do we work together and how do we support our own so that we can also solve the challenges that we see around us? And finally, the youth is the core fundamentals that we are all talking about here. How do you create mentorship programs? How do we provide opportunities to skill the youth? How do you provide apprenticeship solutions where these young ones can have a way they can involve themselves in the workforce and learn as they also prepare themselves to be able to get into the workforce? What do we see Africa now? I think most of us are very familiar with this movie, the Wakanda movie. And it talks about an Africa where we have the emerging technologies that we are dominating. So today, we should build a foundation of STEM education. We believe that if you build the fundamentals right, anything else will fall on top of that. So we need to have a strong foundation for STEM education. And I'm sure majority of you will be on this call and you have this question that, why is this guy talking about STEM? STEM? Does it mean that all of us should be computer engineers, to be AI experts, should be software engineers, robotics, and all that? No. We need to have the fundamentals. And having the fundamentals means that we need to be able to understand the use of technology, right? So all this advocacy, all this session means that we need to build an understanding of these technologies. We need to be able to have control over it. So once you understand it, it means that you can use it. And then you need to have control so that if you are using it and you see some anomalies, you know what to do. And then finally, you can also monitor it. So if you're not getting anything from this session, we are not saying that everybody should become computer engineer or build robots or whatever, but we need to have the core fundamentals right. We need to understand the use of technology. We need to understand the monitoring of these technologies that are going to be relevant in our future now. And then we need to also understand the control so that when you are monitoring it and you see some anomalies, you know the necessary step to do to ensure that you bring it to books and you ensure that you take control over it. And then we are looking at in 2020, we need to expand across all regions across Africa. And then by 2020, as the workforce grows, we believe that Africa will emerge as a global leader in innovation and sustainable development. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope I'm within time. And also, I'll be able to take some questions if there's any. I see some chat uh, over there. So please, thank you for having me the listening ear, and I'll be available for questions right now. Thank you, Zoe, for the opportunity once again.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chris, for that insightful overview on the global trends and the call for upscaling. It really highlights the urgency for adapting and the interventions and initiatives being carried out by STEMIT Africa. Thank you so much. I believe we have time for one or two questions. And there's one already in the chat that maybe I can just read. I believe you touched on it when you mentioned effect, but maybe you can just throw a bit more light on it. That is, if Africa is going to have such a huge shortage in the STEM industry, what strategies are being put in place to close the gap? Are there any governmental policies to improve this? I believe because they're in the Ministry of Communication, uh, I believe you may be able to provide some insight into how this can be addressed.
All right, all right, all right. So, I mean, also, I didn't talk much about Ghana Education Service, but they are also the Ministry of Education is also doing well. But if you look at Ghana's perspective, you notice that majority of the STEM things are coming from the Education Communication Ministry. That
Yeah,
is why I talk much about the communication area. But
sure.
Ministry of Education is also doing well. I think in 2018, they roll out a new curriculum that is
Mm,
starting from the basic one all the way to the upper level. And this curriculum is having this kind of STEM things in there where children can have the basic critical collaboration communication skills in those areas. And also government policies. I think the previous government was doing something about the STEM schools, which is also still in play now. A quick story, if I should, I don't know, I've taken much of the time, but now you have students who are doing STEM in the secondary schools. And this recent government also announced the 1 million coders program,
yeah,
which is also equipping young ones in the field of coding and robotics. So there are a couple of things coming up, but we still need to do much because the infrastructure gap is huge. That is also an opportunity. We don't say it's a challenge or a problem, we say it's an opportunity. So how do you leverage on low-powered STEM toolkit to be able to use to address these challenges in remote areas? You go to villages where they don't even have electricity. So this portable STEM toolkit can be used anywhere without internet, without electricity. Children can learn basic things that will equip them. So the government policies are doing well, and also the ministry is also launching other things. And I think one of the things also the previous government did something about the girls in ICT, which recent government has also launched the girls in ICT, which is a continuation to what is happening. So the policy areas are also good. And recently, the minister also announced the collaboration with UAE, setting up an AI infrastructure and AI solutions that can leverage to use AI in Ghana and also help us build our infrastructure skills. So there is some work going on. And also startup are also doing great stuffs in those areas. So I think we'll get there gradually. We'll get there.
But it looks like there's a lot going on. We need to plug ourselves strategically to take advantage of these initiatives.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Um, Maybe just one more question before we move to our next speaker. And so one more question for you, Mr. Sorry. It looks like three in one, more or less.
Yes,
Besides,
yes.
and it's coming from Joan. Joan is asking that besides EdTech, what are some sector-specific trends you see particularly for health and agriculture? And then
Oh, right,
are
right.
are there any differences within regions or countries in Africa that can inform learning and recommendations on how to position ourselves for success in the future? I hope
All
you got
right,
a few
so
questions.
yeah, I got it. I'm also reading from here, so I
Okay,
read
fine.
it. Right, number two, other countries was, of course, Rwanda is a case study. I
Mm,
put it in the notes where in 2020 they announced the educational policy where ensure that every single child study coding as compulsory. Kenya also launched coding as a compulsory subject for every child. So as much as there are other African countries, we can use Rwanda as a case study. And if you go outside, I'm sure China, you know what China is doing. And also Singapore is doing great also in those areas. But beside edtech, what are some of the sectors that specifically trends for health and agriculture? And so from a STEMIT perspective, we believe that education is critical in every area. And the amazing health AI startup like Immuno Health, which is doing crazy in AI in health, and also agriculture. The reason why I've personally traveled across the country doing research in, let me just use the opportunity to answer the question as Ibrahim was asking as a designer, I should give a brief on UX. What we basically do is that we do research, talk to people, and understand their needs, their concern, how they feel, and what their motivation is to do what they are doing. So if you travel, you talk to people, we would gather all this information as research, and you see what are the outcomes and what can be done. So if you ask me, when we were doing this research and talking to people, we started a startup in agric because you can't do away with food and it's a huge market in there. Look at post-harvest losses and all that. But at the end of the day, if you deploy any technology for these farmers, because their fundamentals in technology is low, it is hard for them to adapt to this technology. Years back, when the port announced the digital port system, the whole workers boycott the port system because they don't understand the use of technology to be able to make their work easier and efficient. So we believe that the core fundamentals is education. Once we have the education and everybody is well abreast with technology, any solution that you deploy in any sector, they can quickly adapt and use it. If you go to the Western country, you could see some solutions that are thriving very well. And you come to think of it, if these solutions started in Ghana, would it even work? Because people are they won't
mm,
really want to use it. So for agric, there are lots of things happening in agric. KIC is doing great in empowering agric and also even doing it at the basic level where they are doing the school farm competition, where students will be growing crops and then they come and show the harvest and the best school wins a competition and win the pricing. And also in health, Mino Health is doing great in those areas. They have an AI system that can detect early signs of cancer and other forms of diseases. And this is also positive for Ghana and Africa. And just last week, they got into the Forbes 30 under 30 in AI research in Ghana. And also there's also language barrier, which I think Azure is doing great work where they are doing local translation in local languages. So there are a couple of solutions happening in those areas. And that is also in conclusion, in brief, so we do. So some people think the UX is just a designing and all those things, but there's a lot of research into those areas that allows people to do specific things, to do research and come up to the findings that will enable us know what to do and what not to do in the area. So I believe I've answered the questions in the chat.
Yes, you have. You have smartly answered all the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you
so
so much.
much.
I believe we can stop sharing and then I'll
Okay.
introduce the next speaker. The next speaker. Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Prince Sorry. Our next presentation will bring the conversation into the practical world of technology and development. I'm delighted to introduce our second speaker, a seasoned full stack engineer who understands what it takes to build a successful career from the ground up. Next, we'll be hearing from Mr. Francis Amate Sampa. He's a full stack mobile and web engineer with years of diverse experience collaborating in both innovative startups and established tech firms. A professional teacher by training, he's passionate about building from the ground up and understands that in the world of development, the basics are everything. He's here to share what core skills are truly essential for a lasting career in tech. Please welcome Francis Amati Sampa. Mr. Francis, thank you for joining us. We are ready for your insights on the essential skills for developers in 2025.
Thank you for having me. I'm really privileged to be on here today to share my expertise and hopefully learn from others on this call. So I would like to share my screen and then get get the ball rolling.
Sure.
All right, so yeah, so Francis Amate Sampa. As introduced earlier, I'm a full stack mobile and web developer. Today, I'll be presenting on the topic from code to career, and then we'll be looking at the essential skills every developer needs in 2025. Um, Before I proceed, I would like to introduce myself once more, just a brief introduction. So I've stated out my name. I'm a professionally trained teacher, but then 10 full stack mobile and then a web engineer with 3 years of teaching experience. And then I have a solid track record of 5+ years working with startup tech firms and then individual clients. So yeah, in 2019, found myself standing in the classroom, and then now I'm leading teams and then shaping and scalable applications across the continent. I would like to talk a bit about my background for those of us here that would like to know what it entails to want to upscale or better still transition into tech. So I would like to talk about a few things that I encountered, what influenced my decision to switch. So why I chose to switch careers,
Except
really
one man on drumming, it plays on
solving
the land after the tone of
I think Nana Yao is okay, yeah, okay. So my love for problem solving, now the general curiosity about how systems work. So the day-to-day gadgets, tools we use, I was very curious about how these things work because they initially appeared to be some sort of magic. So I started exploring basically going online, looking at breaking things apart sometimes just to figure out how things work. So I think from the initial stages, this basically influenced and then fueled my my desire to switch careers. In the initial stages, there were some challenges. The main huge challenge that I faced was the self-learning curve. So basically having to source the learning materials by myself and then consuming and understanding what the learning materials contain was a huge curve initially when I started. And there was this severe imposter syndrome feel. And then also there was limited network. So at a point in time, found myself basically building by myself indoors alone in my own world. And then that was those are like initial challenges that I faced when I started switching careers. But then eventually I overcame these challenges, and then I've outlined a few things that I did to help me cross these challenges. Basically, leveraging on online courses. There are a ton of materials out there now than ever. If you go back 2, 3, let's go back 5 years, and the materials that are available online, the sources where you can learn basically anything regarding technology, it was much harder to find than it is currently. We have platforms like in Eve Courses where you can basically go on there, grab yourself some courses where you can learn to basically close up and then make up the learning curve. And then also I focused on building projects. So learning software engineering is basically a practical intensive work. So when you learn topics, basically have to apply them. And then the only way you get to apply them is by building projects of your own, transferring knowledge you've learned from whatever source you are picking up the knowledge from, and making sure that you're translating it into something that you are building by yourself. Then eventually started contributing to startups where I worked with Fasio, for example. At that point in time, I really didn't have anything much when it comes to experience. But then the projects I've built speak for themselves. And then also, I'm very grateful for the opportunity I got at Fasio to actually be able to prove and then use the learning I've done so far, the personal projects, and then the experience I've gathered from those into building real client projects that are being used by real users in the world. Then I attended lots and lots of developer meetups, and this will help mitigate the challenge of limited networks. So I travel a lot due to the nature of my dad's job. We found ourselves traveling almost all the regions of the country, and then I make sure that in every region I have been to, there's one developer club that I am associated with. I go to their meetings, I make sure I'm heard, I meet people who are above and beyond where I am, and are at places I wish to go. And then I basically talk to them, and then I create this network. So I find myself having a network of people whom I can easily go to source information, source help, and then also build up my technology experience. Then I'm going to look at some transferable skills that I was able to basically utilize when I was switching careers. So as a teacher, you have to be good in communicating, because transferring of knowledge wouldn't be very effective if the communication during that process is not effective. So patience, I was a basic school teacher. I basically had to deal with a lot of kids. So patience was one of the things that was needed in the teaching field. And then it's needed even more in the technology field. Then structured thinking, going through a structured formal learning where you have to basically plan your lessons, you have to plan your assessments and all that. that structured thinking from teaching also helped me in the technology world. And then leadership skills, and then also all these basically helped in my switching because they were transferable from the teaching field and then into the tech world. Now, I would like to talk about some of my developer journey and then some of the companies I've gotten the chance and the opportunity to work for. I've worked for several companies, but then out of these companies, a few are listed here. So in Benico Techno Labs, this is an Indian-based company where I worked for them as a full stack mobile and web engineer. I also served as the CTO and co-founder of Wikari. And then I was the lead software engineer at a point in time for StartLink Africa. Then Fasio, my genesis of professional development, where I served as a web developer and then web administrator. And then Phoenix, Ghana, I served as a full stack engineer at Phoenix, Ghana. And in these companies, I got the opportunity to work on some amazing and then impactful projects. And then it's also basically boosted my position. It boosted me to where I am currently. Let's look at some of the skills that I gathered in the tech world, in the tech field, and then how these skills have enabled me and what they've enabled me to do so far. Currently, I can boast of being able to drive business outcomes. So I can basically go into a company and I can rest assure them to help them expand and then optimize and then also adapt innovations and then basically innovate in their operations. Also, my skill sets have helped me to ship real world applications and then delivered to a wide range of users, both internationally and locally. I've mentored and taught a few people, I should say, and then also I've led teams and then projects also for private institutions and then individuals. Now, enough about my background. Let's take a look at some of the skills that developers would need in 2025. Generally, these skills will be divided into two categories. So we have the soft skills, which we term as the power skills, and then the technical skills. Let's look at the soft skills first. First of all, let's look at what soft skills are. Basically, personal and interpersonal abilities that shape how a developer would work with other developers and then how they would approach their tasks. And then also they include communication, adaptability, time management, and then teamwork. While not these soft skills may not be directly related to coding or your technical abilities, but then they are very crucial when it comes to collaborating with others, which will in turn improve your career growth. I've listed a few of these soft skills that I think are very, very crucial when it comes to career growth. So first on the list is communication. Being able to communicate effectively, as I mentioned in my previous slide, is key to being successful in the tech world, right? So just having the skill set to churn out software, write code, commit code, fix bugs doesn't really cut it. If you want to really grow and go out of your way to become like a more proficient software engineer, you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able, if they are subordinates under you, you need to be able to list out tasks and communicate to them effectively how these tasks need to be executed. And you need to be able to basically explain implementations that you've done so that it's easily adaptable to non-technical individuals. And then all these things help cross functionality, and then it helps when you are trying to collaborate. Then we have time management. As someone who was self-taught, time management is very, very key to doing anything productive and going anywhere when it comes to the software field. And when I looked at the poll, most of you mentioned that you lack the time to learn, and that is sort of like impeding your chances of basically upscaling. And that's sometimes I can say 20%, 80% of the time when you manage your time properly, you can actually have stuff done and still have some time on your hands to learn and to aid your transition. And then also, this is not just for people who are trying to transit. Some people have already successfully made headway in their transition process, but then they need to be able to basically keep track of time, keep track of their tasks that have been assigned to them, and keep track of the deadlines and make sure that they are making up these times. When you're able to manage your time properly, it helps you to avoid a lot of issues, one of those issues being burnout. Now, another soft skill I would like to talk about is your problem-solving skills. Being able to pick up a huge task or a problem, no matter how huge or small it is, and breaking it down into small executable tasks. This is a very, very, very valuable soft skill that would help you in the long run when it comes to switching careers into tech in particular. Now, emotional intelligence. When you're starting in a new field, no matter what the field is, you are going to make mistakes, and you are ideally also going to not know what to do at a point in time. Your ability to take criticism and then sit down, analyze those criticisms, and then learn from those criticisms is very, very key for your career growth, right? There are instances where people wouldn't want to take criticism. You criticize them on a couple of things, and then they want to quit their job and all that. I mean, when you're starting out, your emotional intelligence, you being able to handle these stuff and handle them properly is very key for you to grow in the right path in the tech world. I have a few more, your collaboration abilities and capabilities. So development is a certain sport, right? There are very few instances where you are going to be handling everything by yourself, right? There are instances where you have to collaborate with people. You have to talk with design guys. You have to talk with business people. You have to talk to a couple of others to basically be able to gather the knowledge you need. You bring out your specifications and all that, and then gather the requirements that you need to perform your tasks and perform them efficiently. So your ability to collaborate with these other people that contribute to the work you are going to provide at the end of the day is really key to making sure that the work is top notch, and then it is of good quality. Now let's look at your creative thinking abilities. Being able to see patterns that most people will miss, and you being able to also propose unconventional solutions is very key. And then it is one of the things that most companies that I've worked with outside the country, or mostly they focus on, yeah, they know you can code. Yes, they know you when they tell you, okay, this is the solution we need, you can fix it. But then most companies want you to pick up the issues and own them by yourself. They want you to come into the company, figure out things, and own the issues by yourself, right? So your creative thinking abilities help you in that aspect, where you are able to look at, assess things, and then see patterns that may have been missed, and then you propose fixes to them. You propose innovative ideas to help fix some issues that are being encountered in the organization. Then we look at your resilience. So when you start, you are not going to have it easy. I see a lot of people create videos how to become a full stack software engineer in 3 weeks, how to become that in 2 weeks. Trust me, you can't even learn the entire set of basic things you need to know in JavaScript alone, for example, in 2 weeks, right? It's a learning, it's a continuous learning thing. And then at a point in time, you are going to break. At a point in time, you're going to feel like giving up, right? But then you need to be resilient, and your resilience will contribute a lot in your growth in the tech world. Then the last point I would like to talk about is your zeal to learn. You should be someone who is a lifelong learner. The best developers are always students, they say. Every day, every night, there's this funny quote that goes around in the tech world. They say every Tuesday there's a new tech stack, or there's a new library, and it's true. Like if you sleep 2 days and you come back to your workstation, your news outlets and all that, you see that there are a lot of things. There's a lot is evolving each and every day. So you should place yourself in the position where you want to learn, and learn again. That's the only way you are going to strive, and that's the only way you are going to stay relevant. Now let's look at some technical skills, which are termed the hard skills. These are the hard measurable skills directly related to coding. Software development, and then using tools or technologies. So some of the hardcore skills or the hard skills that you will need as someone who is transitioning into tech would be programming languages, right? The basics, mastering the fundamental. The speaker before me emphasized a lot about this, and I can't stress much on that. Like I can't stress less on that particular aspect of things. You need to master the basics. Your whatever languages, whatever tools that you need to use in your specific chosen field in the tech world, you need to master the basics of those tools and skills. The programming language, those tools you use, the programming languages, or you need to basically be able to work in the field you've chosen in tech. You need to master the basics. The basics are everything. You need to master the basics. It's only when you have a strong fundamental, right? You have a strong knowledge about the basics, then and only then are you going to make, should I say, important strides in as you proceed. Because when you're building a story building and you don't get the foundation right, yeah, you might be able to go 2, 3, 4 stories high, but then there's a high chance it's going to tumble because the foundations are weak. So no matter what the field you find yourself in, master the basics. Now I'm going to look at one other thing that I was very surprised didn't really get enough hits in the poll that we had. So cloud computing and DevOps. Now most companies are going cloud. They are basically using platforms like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. And then these are basically the infrastructures they are going for now. So to be relevant in the developer world, in the tech world, you need to actually grasp some concepts, some understanding of cloud computing, and then DevOps. Now we have cybersecurity. The growth of AI is going at an alarming rate, and there is a constant need of individuals who can basically secure systems to make sure that they are secured enough, and then they are less vulnerable to breaches. And then basically, we have big companies like Google, we have big companies like Facebook. Just recently, there was an issue with MTN where there are data breaches going on each and every now and then. And this is because technology is advancing at a very alarming pace. And then these big companies and even upcoming companies, there's a need for people who are really good, and then they are very security intelligent to handle their infrastructure for them. So if you want to stay relevant in the tech world in 2025, cybersecurity is one of the places you can take a look at. Then the almighty AI and then machine learning. AI, I already used that as a reason why there's much need for cybersecurity individuals. Now, just using AI nowadays, people, when you say AI, the first thing that comes to their mind is, oh, ChatGPT and all that. But then AI is a bit more than just chatbots. Again, the presenter before me has elaborated on certain things that are being done with AI in robotics, IoT, and all that. AI is like a very hot field now, where if you should grasp the concept properly, you should be able to make a good career for yourself in the tech world, and when it comes to transitioning. Now, there are other few ones I would like to take. Blockchain technology. Nowadays, blockchain is no longer just cryptocurrencies, right? We have Web3 and development. It's just carving its own niche in the industry. Now, just a couple of years back, there's the increasing growth of Web3 developers needed for the job market. So this is another field that if you want to stay relevant, if you want to move into the tech world, this is a skill set that if you have, is going to really be of use to you. Then we have quantum computing. This is something that is still emerging, and then it's still really at its early stages. But then we have Google making strides in this field, and then it's really promising. So if you grasp the fundamentals of these ideas, you place yourself in the position where you become one of the pioneers in the next-gen computing demands and market. Now we have data engineering and then big data. Yes, data-driven decision fuel everything from user personalization, and then also business strategies. And then so the need for modern apps to handle massive data and then handle it efficiently is increasingly growing. So this is another skill set that if you have, makes you very relevant in the tech world. And then we have UI and then the UX. Beautiful interfaces are useless if users cannot use them easily and then enjoyably. So developers must understand user-centric thinking and then accessibility. I can't emphasize on accessibility. We have hardcore front-end developers who build systems that basically cannot be used by any other person should they find themselves impaired in any way or differently abled in any way. So you need being aware of these user experiences, and then being aware of you being as a developer, being having that user-centric thinking will basically help you to stand out in the midst of other developers when it comes to the tech world. Well, so basically my encouragement to you guys is that looking at my background, looking at the things I've been able to do, yes, there are going to be some curves, there are going to be some hard things you need to like overcome. But then generally, your background shouldn't be a barrier. And then with the right skill set and then your mindset, you can transition and then you can thrive in the tech field. So thank you. I bring my presentation to an end. If there are any questions, we can answer those.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Francis Sampa. Very practical and excellent presentation from you. The emphasis on fundamentals is so important, and I think you highlighted that very much in your presentation as well. Let's take one or two questions. I believe there are two questions in the chat at the moment. The first one says that thanks for sharing your experiences on your transition from TV to tech. Considering your challenge in breakthrough, what would be your top three advice for anyone who wants to transit into the tech space? Your top three advice for anyone who wants to transit into the tech space.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So first I would say don't be afraid to fail, right? Don't be afraid to fail. Try it. And then if it fails, then your failure, and then you try it again, basically. Second, I would say, well, put yourself in the position where you are ready to change your mindset, right? Don't fixate on one particular thing and that's it for you. Be open to other possibilities. Be open to other. So let's say, for example, you want to do game development, right? Yes, it's okay to want something and want it bad, but then when you start at the beginning and then it's proving to be very difficult, take a step back. Try doing something like web dev. Get your hand dirty. Like get your hands dirty. Make sure that you touch things, then come back to it again. So like don't be fixated. Don't be tunnel vision. Be ready to explore other opportunities, and you never know what you may find. And then my last advice would be that do not afraid to invest. Do not be afraid to invest in yourself. Do not be afraid. Yes, there are a lot of free materials out there, but then sometimes I feel like when you are able to pay for something, it kicks you to want to like get the most out of it, as compared to when you are just having it for free. You don't really value it that much. So do not be afraid to invest in yourself. It goes a long way to help your development process.
Wow, thank you very much for those tactics. But I mean, just emphasize the first one: don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. The second, be dynamic, be agile, be open-minded, and don't be tunnel vision. And then the third is do not be afraid to invest in yourself. The freebies are too much. Be willing to pay for extra knowledge so that you can get much more. Thank you so much for those tactics. Second question, with the emergence of AI, is it still relevant to learn topics like programming, or would it be good to start with AI prompting and engineering?
Yeah, this funny enough, this is something that people argue a lot about. But then so yes, let me give a story to this regard. I have a friend of mine, Prosper. So Prosper once, I think 3 days ago, at around 12 a.m., gave me a message and was like, bro, how do you guys do this, your work? I'm trying to create something and then I prompted Replit. I was hoping for it to just do the thing for me, but then the errors that are coming in me, I don't know what's going on. And then I was like, oh, let me take a look. Then it showed me like a 70 lines long script, Python script. So I asked him, what are you trying to do? Then he was like, oh, I'm trying to create a Telegram bot where I can send an image to the bot and then the bot analyzes the information on the image and sends the feedback to me. So I was like, yeah. So you've described it that way, but then there's a lot more that goes into it than just prompting the AI, right? You need an API interface. You need some form of vision tool, like let's say YOLO or something like that, that can analyze your image for you. You need to then connect the. So it was like, oh, okay. So you see the lack of the basic knowledge, right? Something like that, if I should prompt the AI, I would have done a better job and probably got it in maybe the first or second try because I know the basics. I know what it entails to get that particular idea out. But because he has no idea of the basics, he basically thought, oh, okay, yes, I want this, that, that. You get it. So it's very, very, even it's very, very important for you to be able to know what the AI is bringing out and know that, oh, this is good or this is bad. You not having the fundamental programming skill is going to be a disaster. It's going to be a disaster. So yes, it's even now more vital to have that knowledge than it has ever been because we have AI bringing out stuff and not all the stuff that it brings out are good. So your knowledge in the fundamentals is going to be the key turning point as to whether you are bringing out a good product or you are bringing out a bad product.
Wow, very well. Thank you very much for that answer. And it just emphasizes the fact that the fundamentals, you can't do away with them. And
Over.
so we still need to do at least the basics in the programming, get to understand them so at least when we do the inputs and there are errors, we can be able to understand what these errors are and correct them. And, these are still computer systems, and so garbage in, garbage out. The right
Yeah.
prompt will determine the output. And so at least we have the fundamentals, and I believe they will get a much more better output. I believe we can take the final question for this section, which is with all the skills you have mentioned, which one do you think is more needed in the job market?
Yeah, so like I said, the skill sets that all the skill set that I mentioned, these are skill sets that are very, very actively sought out in the job market in 2025. Like I said, with the emergence of with the fast pace of technology, cybersecurity is something that most firms are really looking forward to uh, uh, um, um, utilizing and then securing their systems. We have DevOps. People, a lot of systems are migrating to the cloud. We need DevOps engineers that can orchestrate cloud architectures and then put them in scalable and then a secure. These skills that I mentioned are basically skills that are very hot in the market in 2025, and then picking one of them up and then being focusing on them and then being a master of them would place you in a very good position in the market, basically.
Well, thank you very much for that feedback. Very grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I believe we can move on to the next session. Can just kindly stop sharing so that we
Is my screen still visible? I've stopped sharing.
Oh, okay. So let me take over. Yeah. Right. So good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I was all smiles during Francis' presentation. Why? Because we're privileged to have him as an intern way back in 2018. I will speak a bit about his story subsequently. But then the first two speakers have laid a very good foundation for me to pick up, right from looking at how to adapt, how to transition, and then I'm going to look at how to reskill or upskill for success, especially going into the job market. My name is Ebanus Azupogo. I'll just share a bit about me. I'm currently a PhD candidate at Queen's University, Kingston, Ontario, in Canada, where I'm studying health promotion, health studies. I have a very weird background that I'm always proud to speak of. I had my BSc and first master's in land governance, that's real estate related. I have a passion in tech that I started growing way back from 2012. Out of that, I established Fashion Tech Innovations Technology, which will be 10 years this October. Um, Currently, I'm also in the health field, and I'm looking at how to combine these three fields. I'm looking at developing web applications for health and land and so on. So throughout my journey, I have been a developer before. I started Tech alone before I had the privilege of having people like Francis on board. I'm a user of technology, so I've used several systems over the years. I've always had a passion for technology, so I'm very curious, and that kind of exposed me to a lot of systems. I currently also serve as a leader of Tech, so I've also been in the position of being a leader. Throughout this journey and throughout these phases, I have encountered so much and I'm hoping that we'll get to discuss that together and see what lessons we can learn from that. Right. So we live in a time where the speed of change is relentless. That is very clear. Every single day, new AI applications are coming out, new systems are being built, new job roles are coming up, and so on. So roles, tools, and expectations evolve faster than ever. But what truly sets people apart? What truly sets successful professionals apart today is not just what they know, no, it's how quickly they're able to learn and how humble they are to learn, adapt, and then to grow. So these are the three things: how quickly and humble you are to learn, adapt, and to grow. But in order to be able to learn, adapt, and grow, and fit into the job market, there are certain skills you have to meet. I understand very well that on this particular call, we have people from different professions. So I'm not going to limit this to technology, but most of the examples are going to be tech-based because that is where I'm based more. Now, the World Economic Forum kind of stated that within the next 10 years or 5 years, 80% of the jobs that exist are not yet invented. That is, let's say 2030 from now. Most of the jobs that will exist haven't been invented yet. For example, 5 years ago, we did not know what prompt engineers were. No, prompt engineering is a new job that came out as a result of AI or the growth of AI. Workflow architect is a new job that has been created and so on. We are also made aware that 50% of all employees will need to upskill or reskill by 2025. We are currently 2025, but sorry, 2035. So what does upskilling and reskilling mean? We'll look at that in a short time. There's a shift in the job market from a human-centric approach to a more of a tech-centric workforce or approach. We are beginning to see where tasks that were initially done by humans are now being done by AIs in minutes or even in seconds. So we're seeing AI and automations that are transforming roles across every industry, wherever you are, in tech, in education, in health, in planning, whichever field you are, we are beginning to see people leverage AI for every single field. And this is currently what's replacing repetitive tasks that we do every day, and also raising the demand for creativity. Now, you have to be more creative than ever. It's not like initially where you could just be stuck to doing one repetitive thing and you'll be in demand for that thing. Now you have to be very creative, be able to merge or do things that other people with same skills as you may not be able to do. We'll look at that briefly shortly. Also, there has been a shift from in-person workplace to remote or hybrid workspaces or work models, right? That has now created a norm or a new demand for skills like digital communication, autonomy, and time management. I was very happy Francis mentioned time management. We'll look at that briefly. But then most of the job roles didn't exist. Most of the job roles we have today didn't exist 5 years ago. And that gives us an idea that things are changing, things are evolving, and then we also need to keep pace with the growth and the trends. One of the things that is very clear is that as these things are growing, as things are changing, our education, our curriculum is not growing with it. That creates a gap, and I'm sure Prince did mention or explain what that gap was. The gap of what is needed in the work field, and then what skills we actually are being taught in class. So that gap is something that we as individuals will have to take upon ourselves to what kind of fix. So there's a need for reskilling. So reskilling and upskilling is not no, it's no longer optional. It's now the new career insurance. If you want to grow in your career, whichever phase, whichever career you are, you need to reskill or upskill. So what's the difference between reskilling and upskilling? I'll use two examples. I've been privileged to have several interns over the years. I would use two interns, Francis and another lady called Gertrude. I'll start with Gertrude. So Gertrude was a graduate student, a graduate planning student from University of Development Studies. She completed, I think, in 2017. After she completed, she was kind of torn between kind of lost in the pool about what to do, looking for a job, not sure about what the future held for her. She decided to take a bit of tech. But then when she realized that it was a bit hard for her, she decided to become an air hostess from the African World. She worked with African World for I think about 2 years and decided to go full in back to tech because there was so much pressure on her. She interned for us, I think, for about a year. Today, Gertrude is working with Paystack. For those of you who are in Africa and you are very conversant with tech and payment gateways and payment systems, you know what Paystack is. Gertrude travels around the world today. She's a full DevOps, attending webinars, presenting, and is doing so great. Now, when we look at Gertrude's journey, she started as a planner, but ended up as a techie. Let me put it that way. She had to at some point reskill, change a path. So reskilling means that learning a new skill or learning new skills to move into a different role or career path. If that is for you, go for it. One of the things that we have come, or one of the times we've come to, is that your background does not limit you. I basically started in land management. Land has nothing to do with tech, yet I own a business in tech and I'm doing not so bad. I'm currently in health, but still practicing tech. So your background, that is the background of your education, whether you did pre-tech, whether you did science, you did medicine, you did agriculture, it doesn't limit you from choosing a new path. Francis, I think we met way back in 2018, where he was still a student teacher, right? Usually they send them to various schools to go and work under the schools is as part of their program. Francis approached me and expressed his interest. I think then he was teaching IT, and then we picked up. We've gone through a lot. We built a gaming center together. From the gaming center, we went back to software, and Francis has been doing so great. He's worked with a lot of firms. He's worked with firms outside of Ghana, and he's still working with us here. Today, Francis has been assigned to about 6 projects. That's within the last two weeks, not within the last 3 weeks, and he's doing so great at them. He's still working with us. Now, Francis had a bit of a background in tech, even as a teacher, because he told me when we met that he wanted to be a teacher, but then his focus or his interest was mostly in technology. And I told him that, see, you can still be a teacher and still be in tech. You can decide to maybe focus on teaching only tech related. And that was something he started with. And out of that, his passion grew into him becoming a full dev engineer. So what Francis did was what upscaling, I can say, because he had a bit of a background. He did not entirely change roles. He only focused at a particular, or maybe he only focused on a particular niche, and that is very beneficial. So this is the difference between reskilling and upscaling. It's important we know the basis. Now we'll look at what skills are necessary or what the industry firms are looking for. We are going to play a small game. Just take out your phone, scan the QR code, or type in game.ebanus@zippo.com. There are 10 questions that you answer. These questions are questions about what you think is necessary to make you more employable. We'll take 2 minutes for that, and after 2 minutes, we'll come back to the presentation and discuss what these are. So 2 minutes starts now. You can just scan the QR code, or let me see if I can also put the link in the game and the chat. Yep. So the link is inside the chat. It's just a very simple questionnaire, but in the form of a game. So it will give you hints, tell you where you are wrong, tell you why you are wrong, and if you select the right answer, it will tell you. At the end of the day, it will tell you whether you are hireable or not. While we are doing this, I want us to begin to think about culture. Culture in our local setting, culture from where you grew up, your background, your ethnicity. Just think about culture. Now, to think about culture, one of the things you also have to notice that every business has a culture, right? Every institution has a culture. When you're introduced into a new institution, they tell you the rules and the do's and the don'ts. The do's and the don'ts make up their culture. They tell you their vision, their mission, their core values. These also form as part of their culture. Even what they wear, how they speak in meetings, if there are rules about how to speak in meetings, where to sit, whether you can make calls or not on the job, are all part of organizational culture. Understanding culture and what the skills most of the big tech firms or most firms look out for is very important to fit into the job market. So we have 1 more minute and then we'll go back into our presentation. Right. So I presume that we've all completed the game stroke questionnaire. So unfortunately, I built this yesterday. I didn't make provision for the results to be displayed. You see your own results, but not the results for everyone. I had to do that in a rush, and so I was asking. Yeah. So what are the big firms looking out for? For every person, for every employer who hires, they are looking at a person who can fit into their organizational culture. That is, what skills you have and how those skills will fit into the existing ecosystem or the existing organizational culture or philosophy they have. One of the critical things we have to look at, or one of the most important, is evidence of impact, not just experience. These days, we are being told, we meet a lot of people who seem to have knowledge of so many fields, are very knowledgeable in maybe various sections. They can speak to content, they can rattle about what things are supposed to be. But when you give them a job to do, then they begin to what? Stumble. They begin to have issues. They begin to fumble. Now, for most of the firms out there, they don't just want you to speak of the fact that you have 5 years of experience, you completed a degree, this is what you got, and so on. No, They want you to what? Show them project portfolios that show measurable results. So if you've spoken about building an app, how many people use that app at the moment? When was that app built? Have you been able to scale it? What problem were you solving? So that is what being able to show impact of what you're doing. If you are a planner, you should be able to show impact by telling us maybe what kind of land use plans you have drawn. How many of those plans have been adopted? Have those plans created any impact or changed anything? Ability to learn independently. That is also another thing Francis mentioned. As a tech dev or in whatever role you are, you should have the ability to learn. I recently hired a junior software dev just about 2 months ago. After a month, he resigned. And I do want to share this experience, but I'm tempted to. My HR reached out to him. Sorry. My sorry, my HR reached out to him to find out why. And he said he wasn't able to keep pace with the way I wanted things to be done, personally, me in particular. But I told my HR something that when people hire you, they don't expect if you're hired as a junior tech dev, of course, we still expect that you maybe have some lapses. Just like Francis said, you'll be criticized, you'll be told what you did wrong and how to improve it. We would expect that. But we don't expect that we'll hire you, pay you, and still have to babysit you. So you should be willing and have the ability to learn independently, learn on the job. You should be curious. You should be able to what? Pick up frameworks, tools, domains without waiting for structured training. Self-teaching is very important to be able to exceed. If you are assigned to a role you don't know, you are at liberty to ask for support, maybe from a senior. If the support is not coming, or before you even ask for the support, one of the things you can do is to what? Self-learn, maybe do a bit of research, find out how it's done. And then when you now meet or have challenges, you can now reach out for support. Then one of the things the big firms are also looking out for, or most employers are looking out for, is open source contributions or side projects. Every developer or every person should have a side project. I always call it a pet project. Now, a pet project, if you're a developer, you should have something that you've been working on right from day one. It could be in my case, it was ancestral lineage. Ancestral lineage was a family tree management system that's taught just to record family lineage information and preserve culture. That's a pet project. Francis will have his pet project. Now, when you're applying for a job, these are some of the projects you can use to show that, see, this is what I've been able to do alone, independently, without the support of anyone. And that demonstrates what? Initiative outside the formal environment, such as contributing to open source projects, publishing tutorials, launching passion projects, and so on. So that is one of the things that you have to what? Begin to think of. If you are a planner, Val, I remember years ago, was modeling, was creating a 3D map for Upper East region from scratch, modeling it, and was looking at how to actually apply that in real life. If you are a graphic designer, you can look at doing pet projects such as creating templates for startups that startups can easily adopt and maybe improve their brand, whatever. So in whatever section or sector you are, there are certain pet projects that you can do that can create impact, that you can share when you are applying for a job to show what you can do independently. Cross-functional experience. Cross-functional experience looks basically at working across teams. Now, tech or whatever field you are, most of the fields are such that you are not a standalone in the organization. You always work in collaborations with others. For example, if you're a developer, you back-end developer, you're working with a front-end developer and maybe a designer, and maybe even a DevOps. If you're a designer, you most likely be working with social media marketing team, or even the dev team. So your ability to work in collaborations is very important. And most young people kind of lack the skill. I'm equally young. I'm not that old anyway. But so that is something we have to take seriously. Should we be able to work across teams such as design, marketing, operations, and then kind of show fluency in understanding how their work fits into the bigger picture. In order to succeed in whichever field you are, you have to understand the bigger picture and the role that you are playing in that bigger picture before you can function well. Now, Prince mentioned something, the fact that they do research for every particular project they want to launch or scale or whatever. That is basically product thinking. You have to ask yourself, who are we building this for? What problem are we solving? Can we simplify it? And the only way to do that is to do research. That is product thinking. Product thinking goes just beyond research to putting yourself in the place of a user. Francis also mentioned the fact that most front-end designers design systems that are not usable, that are not accessible for a lot of population. Product thinking could solve that. So in whatever role you are, whether you are working as a planner, as a dev, as a graphic designer, always think about what? Product thinking, the end user, with the end user in mind. Is what I'm designing okay? Can it be seen by people who are load impaired? Is the font size big? Is the call to action okay? If you're a designer, is it easy to scroll? Does it require so much data? Because we're in Africa, and if you create a website that loads a video and people are managing their 1 megabyte bundle just to browse the internet, you are not doing them a favor. They will leave your website as quickly as they land on it. So product thinking is very important to working in the global market, and that is a skill that you need to develop. Cultural contributions and humility. Sorry. Yeah. So people who make better teams are not just smarter, but then there are also people who can be coachable, who are thoughtful and generous with knowledge. Now, in every organization, you would have issues with your colleagues, with management, with your supervisors. Your cultural contribution and your humility matters in how to handle things. Francis mentioned or spoke of emotional intelligence, your emotional IQ. That is very important, how you handle issues. For example, in the case of my staff who resigned, I would have expected him to reach out to me in person for us to discuss the issues and see how we could help him. Or reach out to HR and tell HR that, okay, since I've joined, these are the issues I'm facing. This is what I'm looking at. This is what I was thinking. Is it possible for us to find a workaround that will meet both of our needs? But he never did. Now, that speaks about what? Emotional intelligence and fitting into culture. To be a better team member, you should be ready to take criticism, also ready to criticize when it's needed. We as management or as business owners also need to be criticized if you're doing something wrong. But the approach and the way in which you do it matters. And this is a skill that is not taught in class. You need to learn it on your own. Well, another thing we can look at is resilience in ambiguity, the comfort of working in a certain and fast changing times. Francis mentioned the fact that every single day a new stack is being launched, new AI is being deployed, a new way of doing something is being launched. So you have to be fast and comfortable with working with a fast changing environment. Most of these firms too are like that. They're agile in nature, right? Today they're doing something. The next moment they find something new that works better. They have to self-teach themselves and improve the system by adopting that new culture or new technology or wherever. Communication has now become key. You are going to work with people remotely across the world. How best you communicate is very important. Sending emails. In Ghana, people struggle to send emails. You send people emails, they don't respond. People, when we put out job adverts and then the kind of emails we receive, I kind of get shocked, right? People don't know how to communicate, and that affects all of us. So that is communication could look at writing tech docs or documents, writing ticket design notes, or maybe technical guides. If you work in GIS or planning, you might have to do technical guides on the land use plans that you create because someone else will come and adopt it at some point to implement it. If you work in graphic design and you create designs, you might even be beneficial to add notes on how the designs can be used, such as a brand kit, right? Brand kits, you need to state what logo can be used at what point in time and for what design and so on. So having these skills are necessary. So basically, these are 10 skills that big firms or big companies are looking out for. Now, how do we skill prove ourselves for the future? Sorry, how do we skill prove ourselves for the future? Since I'm working with a diverse group here, not just in tech, I'm going to just speak broadly about certain skills that can be applied, not disregarding your field. So wherever you are, these skills are going to be beneficial for you. Learning agility, that is the ability to acquire new knowledge quickly, adapt to evolving tools, apply insights in a familiar context, and in the world tech changes constantly. This will be your strongest asset. Today, almost every single company, maybe in this part of the world, let me start with that, in Canada, Americas, and so on, are adopting to the use of what? CRMs or ERPs. These are systems that they use for managing their workflow. They don't do paperwork. When a document has to be sent from A to B, it's done via a workflow, via a system. It could be Slack, it could be custom built systems. You have to be very fast to learning these tools. I have always said that these days there's no job you apply for that will not state one or two softwares that you have to learn. So it's very beneficial, just like Prince mentioned, to begin training yourself in the basics or the fundamentals. That when you have to learn a software quickly, it becomes easier for you. When you don't have the background and you have to learn a software, then it becomes difficult for you to even start. So learning the fundamentals is very, very important. And that takes us down to what digital literacy. That is the comfort of what navigating digital platforms, understanding information critically, and even understanding the implications of new technology. What will happen if you go for a job interview and then you begin to tell them that I have done research about your business? These are things you are doing currently. I believe that when we adopt this technology or adopt this system or this web application, it's going to streamline your operations and make them more efficient if you're not already using them. They begin to get interested because it's like you understand their system, you understand what can make them more efficient, you understand your place in making that system efficient, and you're looking forward to creating a change. So or job interviews or job talks should not just be answering questions, but should be about telling them what you know, the skills you have, the softwares you've learned, and how you can apply them. Even if they're using a software you haven't learned, you can tell them that I have learned a similar software that will easily make it easy for me to learn the software you're currently using. And that is something. For example, we hired an intern recently, a graphic design intern. And for my company at the moment, we use Canva for most of our designs because that is very faster. Unfortunately, this graphic design intern said he didn't know how to use Canva, which is very weird for me. For someone who has used Photoshop, CorelDRAW, will know that Canva is the easiest to use. And we didn't really see any effort in him trying to learn or being interested to even be taught when we had one of the best designers in Ghana currently working with us. So that is one of the things you have to know. Be willing to learn technologies, even if you will not learn it to be perfect. Just have a basic understanding of it, that when you are applying for a new job and it's required, you can be able to tell them that I have basic understanding of this software, but if I'm trained or given on training, in-service training, I'll be perfect with it. And that makes you more marketable than just saying that I don't have skills in this software and that is it. And that is where self-paced learning becomes important. I've already hinted a bit on the fact that jobs are now more remote and hybrid and not more in person. And that speaks of the fact of collaboration and communication that I've already spoken about. So I will not really speak to this. The other thing I also mentioned that I will have to hint about is user-centered thinking. The best solutions are those that solve real problems. But in order to find a real problem, you cannot assume the problem. Whichever field you are, before you can solve a real problem, you need to talk to the people who are facing the problem, gather all the resources you need to understand the problem, look for possible solutions, and even go back to the people and ask them, which of these solutions do you think will serve you best? Gone are the days where we just sit in our office and then say, oh, this problem exists, and create a solution. My supervisor once shared a story with me about how an NGO came into a country, into a community, assumed that their problem was not having water because they were fetching water from a stream. They got funding, built a very nice water system, borehole, that had poly tanks, and they just needed to pump water, launched the borehole or whatever in a grand ceremony. Afterwards, they still noticed people going to fetch water from the river. Then the question was, what was the problem that we're trying to solve? What did we do wrong? They failed to ask the people why they prefer to go to the river, why they prefer that water to the borehole, where they wanted the borehole to be located, and how they wanted the borehole to be managed. And that caused the borehole, though the borehole was available, people were still going to the river to go and fetch water. It's just the same thing with technology. When you build an application without speaking with the users or having the users in mind, the application can be one of the world's best applications, so smart, like so beautiful designed, so interactive and whatever, but the users will not use it. So always having design, the user-centered approach to design is important. Ethics and responsibility. So I've worked with a lot of developers. Michael is one of the persons I've been working with over the last 10 years since I started FASU. I actually learned from him. He's also my senior dev at the moment. Francis, I've been working with him over the last 7 years. And these are people that I continue to work with, that I can confidently assign to clients, ask them to reach out to clients, give them access to systems without even be worried. Are you such a person? That is where ethics and responsibility becomes important. With powers comes responsibility. When you join Google, you have the responsibility of being an ambassador for Google. When you join Facebook, you have the responsibility of being an ambassador for Facebook. When you join FASIO, you have the responsibility of being an ambassador for FASIO. Whether it is building big models, collecting data, deploying apps, you must consider what social impact, privacy, bias, and even confidentiality of whoever you're working for. Francis will tell you that as a freelancer, there are certain people that will require you to sign an NDA before you even begin projects. For some, they'll just, based on the trust they have for you, they'll spill out all the idea to you and hope that you will not steal the idea. So you need to be ethical in whichever field you are. All right, so how do we scale effectively? How do you upscale effectively? Whether you are upscaling, you're rescaling, these are synonymous. I think that these skills will fit for both upscaling and rescaling. So start where you are and just don't stay there. What does this mean? Everyone has a starting point. Francis had a starting point. His starting point was being an intern, right? After, well, just a step back. His starting point was taking the self-initiative to learn. The next step was what? Being an intern. Gertrude's starting point was also taking the initiative to learn. The next starting point was being an intern. Each of the people you interact with, I'm sure Prince also had a starting point. I don't know if his background was tech, but you will always have a starting point. Your starting point is always your willingness to learn, and the drive, and the resilience to continue learning in the face of all the uncertainty, not knowing where you get your next daily bread, not knowing if you actually get a job in that area, not knowing whether it's employable or whatever. Being able to take that self-initiative is the first step. Now, you do not need to wait for the perfect moment or background. What matters is taking the first step and committing to the process. I always tell people that there's no perfect time to do anything. For any friend who wants to start a business, Val would attest to this. I will always tell them to take the initiative to start. Take a leap. When you take a leap into the new path you want to go, things will align for themselves. You will learn lessons as a result of your mistakes, and those mistakes are not going to kill you. They're just going to improve and make you a better person. That is, enable you to be able to forge ahead, become more resilient, become more determined. that is a push you need. Just take a step, take a leap of faith. Now, what does it mean to take that leap of faith? Learn in bits. All the stories we hear about the great people are not people who sat in class and learned the skills they have and became better people. I don't always want to use the techies, right? But when you look at Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, almost all those people dropped out of school at some point, but they're still rich. That may not be your story. Your story may be to sit in class throughout, but then still learning outside of class becomes important. I've always said that our programs in school are not practical based. They just teach you the theory. So in order to set yourself apart from your colleagues, what matters is the extra steps that you take, learning outside of class on how to apply, learning other related skills that will make you a better fit and make you unique. When you go to apply for a job, just know that there are 10,000 people with the same skills you have. The additional skills you have is what will make you stand out. So pick a skill and learn in bits. If the step you want to learn, pick a skill, be consistent, and manage your time well and learn. That is, you can learn through short courses. If Click offers short courses. I'm also proud to say that we built the If Click system. Anyway, yeah, you can also learn through podcasts. Listen to educational podcasts. You can listen to quick tutorials on LinkedIn, or even what? Just maybe talk to people. I had a conversation recently during a conference with one of my friends from a different university called Rodrigo. We're talking about listening to news, and I said that I'm more of someone who is more interested in business news and tech news, but not news related to health. And he made a comment that stuck to me that if I want to be a leader in the field I am now, that's health studies, I have to become more interested in health and global news because that is the only way you can keep up updates with trends, you know what is happening, and know maybe potential job opportunities where the industry is heading to, what changes you can make yourself, and it's very important. So join a podcast, maybe listen to news. If you are into tech, join tech podcasts, have them discuss issues, read tech news. Every day things are happening. You need to be abreast with it. If you're into planning, join planning podcasts. Listen to ideas of other people. Join podcasts. Um, so many things, right? So that is one of the things you need to look at. Also, join learning communities. Francis mentioned about tech ecosystems, tech hubs that you can join. They have training programs. They kind of have by the fireside chats that you can learn from each other and share your experiences and so on. Those are great experience that offers support, accountability, exposure to new ideas, and most of them are always in person. Even if it's not in person, you can still learn the skills, and then they keep you engaged and motivated and encouraged to continue. So you will learn new things, you get to build partnerships, and who knows, your next business venture could come out as a result of being part of a tech community. I've known of people from class some time ago. I think they met, I don't know how they met, but they formed a group, different people with different skills, and built a particular farm agricultural technology. Now, you can also find or become a mentor. Francis is currently mentoring some of our interns. I've assigned Francis to, like I said, about 6 or more projects, and 2 interns have been assigned to him. His role is to make sure the interns learn while they're with us, assign them to tasks, and we are loving it. So you can be a mentor if you have certain skills. You can also look for a mentor. Val gave the opportunity for some of you to intern with us based on your ability to complete certain courses. That is one of the ways you can do it. You can, Francis reached out of the bloom. Francis didn't know me. He just saw our office and walked in one day and met me and told me what he was interested in. And then we started working together. So look for a mentor. If you identify someone who you think has skills in the area or insights or has a larger network in the area you want to be, approach the person and speak to the person. Personally, I have this thing I call coffee chats, visual coffee chats, where I set up a Zoom meeting and just invite a random person. It could be a friend or a random person I meet on LinkedIn, just to have a 30-minute or 45-minute conversation where we openly like talk about ourselves, about teenagers, about things we can do together. And that is also what the way you can find a mentor or maybe learn from people. The last thing I want to talk about is build a personal brand. Branding is now as important as learning new skills. Here's the funny thing. When you go to LinkedIn, I know I'm not a fan of LinkedIn. Let me use an example. Michael, my software lead, has more than 15 years of experience. He completed KUST when I was still in JSS. Michael's LinkedIn page is nothing to talk about. He doesn't have an image, nothing about the skills he's had or the project he's worked on. And he's a very great dev, working with big firms. That is one of the things. But then we are currently in an age, apart from the fact that he already has experience, where your personal brand counts towards the kind of opportunities you get. I've always shared with friends that there are people on LinkedIn that will have better skills than that when we apply for jobs, they will get the jobs easily than us because they have a stronger personal brand that speaks to what they know than what we do. They are always writing and commenting about industry related issues, sharing about project progress, sharing milestones of things they're doing, and that people are watching. That is telling people that you are taking actionable steps in the very field that you are. Sorry. So personal branding is not just talking about what you're doing, the milestones and everything. It's about creating that niche. At this point, you shouldn't be using an email that is sexy 2020 or sexy that. Use very good emails. A domain name costs as less as 200 bucks, 200 Ghana cedis. You can even buy a domain name and have a personal domain name that is maybe me at yourname.com or something that just makes you stand out. Have a portfolio page. If you're a dev, create a simple page. It could be a free one or a paid one where you list out all the projects you've worked on, all the milestones you've had, and make it more accessible. If you're a planner, have a portfolio page where you will share some of the maps you have created that when people are actually looking out for people to hire, they can approach you. Are you guys aware that people get approached on LinkedIn and are offered jobs without even having to go and look for the jobs? What makes them stand out is not just the knowledge you have. If you're so knowledgeable, you can be the most smartest person. And if you don't share what you know, no one will know that you're knowledgeable enough. So be willing to put yourself out there, share what you know, position yourself and make yourself more competitive. My reflections for today. This is one of my philosophy. I'm a techie, so obviously it's going to be around techie, right? Real impact happens when technology sells people. Technology is meant to serve us. AIs are meant to serve us, not we serve AIs. Whichever field you are, this is the starting point. How do you leverage AI to make yourself a better person? To make a better person in your field of tech, in your field of design. Design, you can now use AI to generate concepts, to even generate stock images that you initially buy for like $5 just to make it, just to make a design. Now you can use AI to generate those stock images. If you're a video editor, you can use AI to generate very complex scenes, videos. If you're a programmer like Francis, you can use Coursera and inbuilt tools in some of the tools to kind of make your work easy and faster. But like I said, or like they all said, having the basis or the background is important. Now, this is just not a code. It's a philosophy you have to live. How can you let tech serve you as a person? As a person looking for a job in maybe planning, in tech, in education, in design, in whatever you are. Every skill, every tool, every project must have this question answered. Are we building for people? Are we solving real problems? I'm leaving you with this. Stay curious. You have to be curious to learn. You have to be curious to learn new things. If a new AI is launched and it's free, go and try it. There's nothing wrong with that. Go and try it. If you don't want to use your email, create another email for just trying softwares out or trying things out. Try as many as you can, even if you not use them. Knowing a little about everything makes you a smarter person than just knowing so much about one thing. stay adaptable, be able to change based on the trends and the current climate. Keep learning. Francis said, learning programming is a lifelong activity, not just programming. Every field you are, whether you are in planning, you are in land management, you are in real estate, you are in technology, learning is a lifelong thing. If you fail to learn, you will be left behind. The technologies that were there 5 years ago are not what are there today. Every single day, things are changing, and the only way to keep abreast with it is learning. There's always a joke, just like Francis said in the tech world, that if you go on coma, if you go into coma for a month and you come back alive, you feel like a stone age person when it comes to technology, because in that 1 month, so much would have happened that you might need to relearn the fundamentals to be able to even get yourself going or to keep a pace with what people who were learning in your absence. Build with purpose. Just don't build things because you have to build them because you feel like building them. Always build things that will create impact. Like I said, every big firm, every company are looking at what impact you are creating as a person. Start a side project that maybe would help your community. And I bet you that anytime you go in for a job and you talk about that side project and the impact it's creating, everyone on the panel will be so excited and happy to have you. They'll be rooting for you. They'll be rooting to have you in their firm. That is what building with purpose means. Showing that what you build actually serves a community, solves a real problem, helps people in need, helps the vulnerable, identifies something and work with it. So my last slide and my final message to you: start today, start now. Nothing is stopping you. Go to YouTube, get a free course. If you have money, invest in yourself, like Francis said. Buy a course from Eve Courses or any other platform that has the course you want. Learn something new. Every day, learn something new. For me, learning becomes easy when I listen to podcasts. I don't have to read. I can be walking or at the gym and be listening to a podcast. Learn something new every day in your field. It makes you stand out. When you talk, it makes you become someone who can really talk out of substance and not just rubbish. Share what you know. Don't hide yourself. Don't be like those who know so much and wouldn't share anything on LinkedIn. Become vocal. Otherwise, people who have less skills like you and are vocal on LinkedIn will take all the roles. They will talk out, they'll talk about things they can't even do and take the roles and become your bosses one day and frustrate you. But when you begin to talk about what you know, argue with such people and set them right, then you set the standard that positions you above them. So my question to you today is, what will you do differently after today? What are you going to do differently? I want you to reflect about this question from today onwards. What are you going to do differently? If you are still in the uni and you are preparing to complete, ask yourself, what can I do today that will place me differently when I complete? If you are already in the job market looking for a job and you're not getting, ask yourself, what can I do differently today that would make me a better candidate for the most of the jobs I apply for? If you are just starting life and you are still looking at taking a degree program, ask yourself, what can I do today? Or what program can I do today that would place me in a better position to be more marketable and more employable? Or what skills can I learn today to become better at what I'm doing? That applies to every single field. Thank you so much. And I really enjoyed sharing what I know with everyone. So if you want to follow me, just you can scan my LinkedIn code. I'm on LinkedIn, my full name. You can also check out my website to learn about my work and research, and I'm happy to connect with everyone. Thank you. If there are any questions?
Thank you very much, Vanos. Thank you very much for the presentation. This was a powerful and holistic perspective on the adapting to change, reskilling and upskilling for success in a fast-paced job market. The idea that technology must serve people sustainably, I think, is one of the things that's there, and it's a perfect call for our discussion as well, and also points of reflection for all of us on what we'll do differently after today. Before we take the questions, I'd want us to just do the final poll, and then we can zoom into the questions, right? So maybe you can stop sharing for now, and then
Okay.
Valentine will just take over with a second poll, and then we can delve into the questions and discussion. All right, Valentine, are you ready for us? Thank you very much. So the second poll is up, and the question is, if you had nothing stopping you and had the time and resources, which career path would you take and why? This is an interesting question. So if you had the time and if you had all the resources, you had all the money, money was not a problem, and you could go to the school you want to go to. You want to go to Harvard, Oxford, whichever. Nothing was blocking you or impeding you. Which career path would you take? Which career path would you take? Some people wanted to become a doctor, but probably the school, the fees and all that stopped them. Some people wanted to enter into tech, but maybe the certifications and all of that were quite costly. But the question is, if cost was not a problem, if you had all the resources and if you had all the time, which career path would you take and why? And so just a brief moment for us to think about and to put our question, our answers in there. And so you just give us a why as well. Why would you take that career path? Just a brief answer, and then we come to just. I think we have about 20 more seconds. 20 more seconds for this poll to close. If you didn't get a question, I believe it should be on your screen. If you had nothing stopping you and had the time and resources, whether financial, physical resource, which career path would you take and why? Which career path would you take and why? Okay. I believe by now we would have answered the question. I believe by now we would have answered the question. Valentine, are we able to see the feedback? Okay, we are able to see the answers. Are we able to see? Okay. I believe because this was typed, so you may not be able to see the results at the moment. But I'm sure there'll be interesting responses coming in from the poll. Thank you very much, Valentine. I believe we can move on to the next stage, which is the Q&A session, so that we can take some questions. And so maybe just to make it easier, we can have all the speakers put on their videos, and then any question can go to any of the speakers, and not just to Mr. Thanos. And so maybe I'll just take the first one. The first one coming in from okay. We have one coming in from, I'll take it from the bottom, Mr. One from Sanaba. Considering the high rate of employment in the country and low employment opportunities, what is the path to starting and building a new career path? I would like the opinion of each of the speakers and how they started their businesses. It's quite interesting. So considering the high rates of employment, the high rates of unemployment, I believe, considering the high rates of unemployment in the country and low employment opportunities, what is the path to starting and building a new career path? I would like the opinion of each of the speakers and how they started their businesses. All right, maybe
All right.
Mr. Ebanus, since you
Uh,
were Yeah, you can just take
Yeah.
that up.
So let me start, but then I would just love to answer the three questions that are directed to me, and then we can proceed from there.
Sure.
So I'll start with the first one. The person who is talking about pursuing a master's or PhD in logistics and supply chain management. They're
Yeah.
talking about what skills are relevant to you for you to learn before grad school, and how do you become good in research. The first key is doing research in your undergraduate level. I think for various universities, research is either mandatory or I don't know if it's mandatory in every university, but if it is, I think you should go for it. That is the first clue to becoming a good researcher. Be very keen on learning. Most undergraduate students always pay people to do their research for them. I will ask you to do it yourself. That is the only way you can be able to build your knowledge around research. I would also suggest that you become a teaching assistant on campus. Becoming a teaching assistant is not something a lot of students love to do because when you go to a job market and if you don't become an academic or if you don't end up in academia, not not working in the job market itself, like in supply chain companies, would mean that you have less skills as compared to someone who has worked in those or done their service or national service attachment with them. But then working as a teaching assistant gives you the skills you need to become a better researcher. Also, that is because you work with lecturers who might assign you to do reviews, maybe do a bit of research for them, design questionnaires and so on. So you're able to have that kind of close interaction with them and then you learn. The other advantage is that when you're applying for schools, you are able to get very tailored recommendations from these professors or lecturers for you, unlike your colleagues who work in the industry. So if your intention is to be in academia or do a master's or a PhD, and you can be a teaching assistant, that makes it easier for you. But if you are more job oriented and you want to work in industry, I would recommend you go to industry, but maybe still be more interested in research and pick up side projects that you can do around there to share your knowledge. Regards to Joan, about how professionals from non-tech backgrounds can leverage their domain expertise while reskilling. I think that it becomes nuanced when we look at the fact that we are all from different fields, but then one of the common denominator here is what technology. Every field has a way that they can leverage on technology. So if you are academic, into health, into marketing, just maybe you do a bit of research and see how to maybe identify relevant use cases of technology in your field. That is whether in writing, in question designing tools, or designing games or designing systems. Just maybe do a bit of research on that. When you identify that, then you will begin to leverage IT, identify AIs that can help you gain those skills, or maybe identify technologies that you can leverage to be able to improve those skills. Also, one of the things that I can talk about is what selective based on career goals. That is, your career goals should determine what skill you should focus on, or what AI or what technology you should begin to leverage on. So once you have your goals out clearly spelled, you're able to decide what is the best technology, what is the best skill from that point onwards. Collaborate with other people who have tech background. You need not know everything in tech. If you can most of the products that we build lately are done with people who have no tech background. So we serve as their tech eyes, and they serve maybe as their policy eyes or what health experts or experts in whatever field they are. Then we collaborate, and that is why collaboration is very important. There's so many things. Maybe you can reach out later. Then we'll discuss this in detail. So regarding Val's question about unemployment, uh, for every one of us, I know I've not heard from Prince, but for Francis, I know because we work together. For every one of my friends who have started businesses or are entrepreneurs, most of them started by self-learning. We don't Entrepreneurship until recent years was not taught in schools for non-business students. It was only taught to business students. So in order to exceed in whichever field, in order to be able to create something, start your own business, you need to self-learn. Whatever field you want to start a business in, you need to start by learning. Give yourself 3 years, maximum 3 years, or even more if there's a need. You can self-learn in a year for some businesses and be able to start something. For some, you need more time to self-learn. Francis took about 3 or more years to learn to become a full back end, full stack developer. That can apply to most of you. So The starting point is taking the initiative to self-learn. Start today by identifying the niche, the business, the area where the opportunity is. Ask yourself what skills are needed and how to approach them. And even with AI now, it becomes so easy. Just go to AI, whether ChatGPT or whichever, and state, I have these skills, or I want to enter into this business. Explain the business to me, or explain the business model that I need to understand. Tell me what skills I need to learn to be able to thrive in that area. The AI will spill the whole lot of skills. But just like we always say, garbage in, garbage out, you have to be able to prompt it appropriately. If you have issues, reach out to Val or any of the speakers. I'm sure they'll be willing to help, or including me. We're willing to help with that. How to prompt it to generate very credible business opportunities and show you the skills you need to be able to achieve that. And then you just begin from there. Even AI now can develop business plans, can develop business profiles, and even give you a roadmap to launching a business based on what you input or based on the model or what you tell it. So it's just about what? You being curious, staying curious and trying things out, being self-learner, like self-learning and teaching yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Fu, for that elaborate response. Maybe you can hear from Francis as well, and then we'll go on to Craig.
Yeah, so I think Eban has really said a lot, which I think that's for starters, that is like sufficient. But then also I would just like to also address those who are let's say develop like they are focused on becoming developers per se, and they are trying to build a career path to become a developer of any sort, so mobile, web, whatever developer you want to be. So I'm sharing a link that is called roadmap.sh. So on this site, it's a very useful site. What it does is that on the front page you have a bunch of role-based roadmaps. So you have a bunch of roles, and then the other sections have skill-based roadmap. So it gives you a set of skills. So after you've prompted AI about wanting to become maybe a mobile engineer, AI tells you need to learn A, B, and C. You come onto this site. The site will give you detailed roadmaps, right? Very detailed roadmaps. I think I can share my screen to just show you a sample of the things you are likely to see on here. So I'm just focusing on developers because that's my stronghold. So this is for those who want to become developers. So on the page you have role-based roadmaps, and then we have skill-based roadmaps. So say you want to become a mobile engineer. You need to know, do you want to become a native mobile engineer, or you want to become hybrid mobile engineer? If you want to become a native mobile engineer, do you want to do iOS or do you want to do Android? So here, if you want to do Android, you come here to Android. It gives you a very comprehensive roadmap, right, of the tools, where to start, and even gives you on the side where to search for free resources to get you started and all that. So this will give you a very vivid roadmap on what you need to do, from where you need to go to, the tools you need to learn, the languages you need to learn in order to become an Android developer, like I selected. Then at the bottom, there is a linking card where, okay, now you're an Android developer. You can become an iOS developer. You can become a React Native developer. You can become a Flutter developer. So how do you channel from here? Then if say, okay, now you've learned Android, you want to become iOS, you want to delve into iOS, then it moves you straight into iOS. So this gives you a very comprehensive roadmap on the tools you pick, what the next steps are, So you see here at the bottom, it gives you the next steps you can move on to after the one you are just focusing on. And then yeah, it's a very helpful tool for anyone who wants to start. And then yeah, you can get free resources as well linked to a lot of these skills and then role-based roadmaps. So this is a tool I would share in addition to what Urban just said. And then yeah, hopefully this helps you to kickstart your career.
Thank you very much. And so if you're looking to go into the developer side, I believe this will be very, very helpful for you. Thank you very much, the Sampa. Can we have Prince? Mr. Prince Barton Asari?
Hello, Samuel, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you. If you can just put on your video as well. So you can...
I'm currently on the move. I had to
okay.
follow up on
All right.
other activities here.
Sure. Okay.
Now, what was the question, please?
Yeah, so the question was considering the high rate of unemployment in the country and low employment opportunities, what is the path to starting and building a new career path? And yeah.
Well,
Did you get
okay,
that?
so looking at high rates in the country, what are some of
High
the
rate,
opportunities?
yeah, the high rate of unemployment in the country and the fact that there are low employment opportunities. What is the path to starting and building a new career path? And maybe
Right, right,
also how you started your business. So
right,
that in case the
right.
person wants to branch into entrepreneurship, how they can be able to start their own business. Since you all
Okay, okay.
are CEOs, yeah,
Right. I believe my previous speakers have elaborated much on that.
sure.
I'll go forward straight into the concern of high rate of unemployment. You would see that as much as there are unemployment, there are always opportunities in the country. What we need to do, we need to reskill, unlearn, and then relearn. And then all those opportunities will be made available to you. If you look at the global landscape, you will notice that I think there was Ubenos share that on World Economic Forum talking about the scores that is going to be declining and the scores that are going to be up in the opportunity. Let me use myself as an example. I have a software engineering background and I worked as a service personnel at the Kofi Annan ICT Center before I branched into the field of IoT and robotics. And then AI has also grown in the academic and the career calendar or the career path. If you want to do something, you need to have a path. And I saw someone sharing the links to become an expert in a key area. The main challenges we are facing mostly of the time here in Ghana is that, which I mentioned three key of them: infrastructure gap, the fundamentals gap, and also the opportunity to be an apprentice, which is you can learn under someone, and then you can now be able to understand what you need to do. And someone mentioned of mentor, Uranus also mentioned about mentorship, which is very important. So for me as a CEO and how we started our company, when I completed university, I was posted at the Kofi Annan City Center as a service personnel. And I did my work as where I was posted is my own company. I was the first to be in the office. I was the last to be in the office. To leave the office, I ensure that I have a good work ethics. And Uranus share all those good work ethics. And then the funny thing happened is that every colleague of mine, when we were doing service, they said like, hey, you there, but always they will take you. They will take you because you are doing so well, right? And then after
service, we were told that the government is under IMF and that they cannot hire workers until they are given some time to do that. Majority of my colleagues left the company because they said they didn't hire them. And me, I still stayed. I was not getting salary, but I was making sure I was the first to be in the office. I was the last to leave the office. And what does it mean? It means I'm building myself resilience. I'm building my resilience skills. I'm also building and learning as I get to engage people. I was a teaching assistant because Kofi and I, we do three things. Well, I'm not there anymore, but they still do the three things. The consultancy, professional development training, and then also engagement with the other agencies across the ministries. So I was also a teaching assistant as I ran training programs in coding. So just to be specific, I was doing training students on C++, which is embedded systems engineering courses. I was doing trainings under cybersecurity, which I somehow also mentioned some of them. And I was also doing trainings on web development as well. So all these things, me, I just love the things I was doing, but unconsciously, I'm building my work ethics skills. First thing, love what you do. Find a vocation that you can do without being paid. You can still do the job. Because majority of us in the workforce right now are doing the job because they are getting paid. If they don't pay you, would they still be able to do the work? So the love for the work they do is not even there. They are there because at the end of the day, they get the checks and they are good to go. So we need to identify the things that you love, that you can do without getting paid for. You can still be able to do that. Then you would also leverage on technology as much as you can. Stay up to date as much as you can. My previous speakers mentioned about AI and all those things. I would also be glad we could do AI prompt engineering masterclass. Prompt engineering is basically understanding how AI works and how you can talk to it to give you what you want. It's a basic fundamental skills. I like to draw back to the fundamentals because through our research, you notice that people lack specific skills, not because they are lacking it now, but because they lack the basic fundamentals. And when they grow, they think that they are old. So it's so hard for them to go back and reskill themselves. And so that is why Uranus also mentioned the need for reskilling and upskilling, which is very important. I'm sure majority of us on the call here are already in their work environment and they are comfortable with the position they are. But the new technologies are coming up. It is important that wherever you find yourself and at what comfort you find yourself, you need to reskill because the AI is coming, the robotics are coming, the IoTs are coming. And what would your state be if you are doing the work that you do the same thing over and over again? You notice that the AI has to come over the job. They'll come and take over your job. So going back to how you can start a business, identify the need and make sure that the need you've identified is not about money. I think Steve Jobs put this statement out there that you have to love what you do. And loving what you do is basically doing the things you will do without getting paid and being able to do it at your maximum best. So when I was doing all these things, when the opportunity came for them to hire, who would they hire? Because I've been there and I've been doing all this without been getting paid. And I had the opportunity to work on the education transform as a technical support advisor. Because I was there, I was showing a lot of resilience. Even though I was not officially a staff, I was able to get the opportunity to become an independent contractor to work on the project. And through that, I traveled all the way, all the country. And there are so many things I identified as a problem and was so dear to my heart. And my co-founder also so dear to his heart, where we now discuss how we can find solution to the problem. So what I can say, Ghana is hard. As much as it's hard and there's unemployment opportunity, there are lots of work opportunities over there. On the average, every single day, I'm getting a LinkedIn message of a job opportunity just by just setting up my profile over there. So personal branding, which Reunions also spoke about, is very important. Have a portfolio of the work you've done so that people can look for you and they'll find you. And then number two, if you are going into building your business, you have to love what you do. Number two, you need to identify the need of a problem. Number three, research is very important. Even before all these two things, you need to do the research and understand that a problem is actually a need. And research will basically validates your assumption. From a design perspective, there are 5 key areas: empathizing with the users to understanding their needs, all the way to when you design the prototype for testing. So you will need to validate the idea in a way or two and look for the business viability of the idea. And then you can start small with a small community and then you build upon that. The other speakers have spoken a lot about that. So
Yeah.
I think I can stop here. I'll be able to
Yeah.
follow up if you have other questions.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much for the incredible insights and for the wonderful advice that you've given us. Well, thank you to the other speakers. I believe we've gone way over time, and I would want to just give a huge thank you to our phenomenal speakers, Mr. Prince Boateng Asari, Mr. Francis Amate Sampa, and Mr. Ebanus Azpogo. Can we give them a round of applause in the chat or a thumbs up? A round of applause or a thumbs up in the chat. Thank you so much to our speakers. Key takeaways. We've heard about the global call for upskilling, drilled down into the essential skills for developers, and learned about a crucial mindset for adaptation. The common thread is very clear. We need to be proactive. We need to be proactive and continue to learn. The proactive and continuous learning is no longer optional. It's no longer an option. It is the very key to a successful future. And so it is something that we need to take up very seriously. We need to be proactive and engage in continuous learning. Going back to the fundamental, it is no longer an option, but it is the very key for us to have a successful future. Our next step, the conversation doesn't end here. We encourage you to follow in courses on all social media platforms. Valentine, you can share the social media links in the chat for us. And so engage us, follow us on all our social media platforms to stay updated on future events and opportunities. Also, keep an eye on your email. We'll be sending a follow-up survey about today's webinar. We would love your feedback as well. Finally, I said thank you for attending. We'll be sharing the webinar recording and as well as links. We'll be engaging our speakers, and if they give the go-ahead, we'll share the PowerPoint presentations with you as well. On behalf of InCourses, our partners, SEMIC, Facial Innovations Technology, and ICT Amati Smart Tech, thank you all for investing your time in your future today. Have a wonderful and productive rest of the day. It's goodbye, and thank you for joining. Bye for now.